Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this panel discussion titled CyberSafe Futures, Scaling Inclusion and Protection for Every Child. Moderated by Rebecca McLaughlin Eastham, Independent TV Anchor and CEO, RME Media. Our panelists are His Excellency Sofiene Hemissi, Minister of Communication Technologies, Tunisia; Sheema SenGupta, Director, Child Protection and Migration, UNICEF; Dr. Maimoonah Al Khalil, Secretary General, Family Affairs Council, Saudi Arabia; Dr. Iain Drennan, Executive Director, We Protect Global Alliance.
Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, hello, and I'm delighted to be your moderator for this important conversation about how we best protect our children online. It's quite staggering when you look at the statistics of the state of play today that some 72% of children, those under 12, who are on social media, have fallen prey to a cyber attack. It's a reflection of our world, it's a reflection of our society, it's also a cognizant reminder of advancing technology and the great chasm that stands between us and protecting our children online as we try to keep pace with technology. The responsibility is clear. We have to protect our children not only from cyberbullying, but also exploitation and data breaches. So how do we best do that? Well, we have gathered the good and the great to deliver all these answers and more. And I'll jump straight in with a question to my first esteemed guest, Your Excellency, Minister Sofiene. Talk to me about the state of play in Tunisia. We know that the problem, the challenge of protecting our children online is increasing in your country, but what are you doing to tackle it?
Thank you, Ms. Rebecca. So we are in Tunisia, as all the regional Mediterranean country. We are about 70% youth population, youth people, all of the people are well and high education, and also the coverage of internet and is very high. So actually, Tunisia, we faces a very critical problem. Is the addiction of the child with the smartphone and the internet. Also, we have remarked that the proliferation of the abuse and bullying practice for children and family. Also, we know that today the criminal network, they use all the cyber canals for recruiting young people in the criminal network, and also even terrorists and all this. Also in Tunisia, actually, we faces a lot of campaign with bullying for children and for young people. So actually, we have launched a national initiative to take face for this all challenges.
Thank you. Sheema, let me come to you. Lovely to see you. You firmly believe that we need to recenter the way we address this problem. We need to put children right at the heart of the matter, not just the conversations and discussions that we're having, but also from the get-go, from the design process to the implementation. How do we go about doing that?
I think it's really important that, children are the ones who actually access digital technologies all the time. And often the designing, and most times designing, is done without considering them, and it kind of sometimes retrofitted. And since they know best how it works for them, what works for them, I think we should have them right from the design phase, but also going forward, because technology evolves so quickly, and having those conversations with them is important. it's also important for the response that happens, for governments, regulators, and so on, to have them at the center of those conversations. Because oftentimes they tell us what's happening and we are not aware of what they're facing, whether it's harmful content, the types of harmful content, which are constantly evolving as well. Cyberbullying, we know it happens, but what are the different forms of it? What are the different forms of harmful content? Because these are constantly evolving. So having those discussions with them, keeping them front and center, is extremely important.
Thank you. Dr. Maimoonah, lovely to see you again. Take me behind the scenes in the corridors of power from a government and strategic point of view. What has worked to date to tackle the problem that we're facing, and what hasn't, interestingly? What lessons can we learn about the strategies that have failed?
Thank you for having me back. And, from where I am at the Family Affairs Council, we're tracking and seeing many different and evolving threats. They are only becoming more complex with AI and deepfakes and so many fastly evolving technologies that really make us not just try and keep track with all these developments, but also think about what is the infrastructure, what does it need to look like in order for it to anticipate as well as address all these different threats. In terms of what has not worked, I think everyone on this panel and probably in the entire audience agrees that child protection is a priority for all. And so there are initiatives that are housed independently in different entities that have one relation or other with the issue, and there is a lot put into that in terms of resources and skilling and research. However, what won't work is when those models are operating alone, and there are independent pockets of infrastructure that are not connected horizontally. Which is why we are huge proponents, huge advocates for a unified framework, a framework that gives very clear roles for all the stakeholders. These stakeholders meet and discuss what KPIs need to be held and put forward for all, and decide a timely fashion in order to get to them. And we think we have in Vision 2030 an excellent model of that being done on a national level, and it has all the more reason for it to work on a very specific target, which is child protection online.
What's the big ambition? What milestones do you want to reach? Is there a national objective and a place where you will think we have successfully tackled this, at least in the short term?
Well, we have articulated it actually in the National Framework for Child Online Safety and Safety in the Digital Space. We have done a pledge that is related to that with UNICEF. We made it very clear that what we want to do by Vision 2030 is to make sure that children are aware of what the threats are, that parents are also aware of how they can support their children if a threat is faced, and that this is the responsibility of all. And so schools have a role to play, security, enforcement has a role to play, facing and giving support to victims also needs to be put into place, as well as a larger civil society engagement, and the private sector is a main stakeholder here as well. And so when it is a goal that is set for all, then upholding that goal becomes everyone's responsibility, and accountability needs to be placed on all.
Thank you. We'll come back to that responsibility and accountability, and indeed the raising of awareness, which seems to be so important at a national and a global level. But let's take it to a domestic level, if we may, Iain, because for those who have children, and we all know children, we have children in our families, how do we protect them? Because a lot of them online today are interested in gaming. We've seen a huge rise in the popularity of it. You've done an interesting report which has done a deep dive into it, and the risks there for children can happen within seconds. Is that correct? How do we protect them? I imagine a conversation needs to be had.
Yep, absolutely. So we're incredibly grateful to the GCF for supporting, as you say, a deep dive into the gaming sector, which is a multi-billion-dollar business. I mean, I think the days of it being some kind of a, just a thing that kids could amuse themselves with on the side, it is huge. If you look at esports, if you look at EA, the sort of recently, it's very, very big business. This is where children are. So if we're talking about how to reach them, how to engage with them, gaming platforms, gaming communication, that's a really important area. But there are challenges there. One that I would highlight, and I was speaking with His Excellency about, is about grooming. And that can be for the purposes of abuse or exploitation. It can be for the purposes of engaging people on violent extremism. But the same techniques are used. And it's kind of manipulation in these spaces where adults and children can interact, where people aren't sure who they're dealing with exactly. And this can happen. We've seen it happen in as little as 19 seconds, but the average time to go from first contact to a risky conversation can be 45 minutes. So what we need to do is to look at how we build in those guardrails, those safeguards into the platforms so that parents, caregivers can be confident in terms of that these are safe spaces. And we want to just emphasize that there is no tension between innovation and safety. You can have a safe platform that is still incredibly profitable and successful. We've seen it in the aviation sector. We've seen it in the automotive sector. Safety can be a point of differentiation in the market. And we've seen companies already that are starting to do that. They are engaging with children, both as users, as consumers, as creators, but they understand they have to create a safe space for them to have the confidence to engage.
And speaking of engagement, you have children yourself. How do you sit them down and make them aware of not only the seriousness of the potential risks out there without frightening them? We don't want it to be, we have to talk conversation. How do you keep the dialogue flowing so it's a safe space?
Absolutely. I think just making it a kind of conversation that happens when something goes wrong, I think is something that we would advise against. I think that ongoing dialogue, so that children are living their lives in the virtual world, in the physical world, as a kind of a seamless whole, in the way that I, as a generation who kind of the digital world came into being sort of as I was growing up. My kids, they've always had it. They've been always immersed in it. So I think what I try and do, and what we advise as we Protect Global Alliance, is to have a constant conversation. Ask them about, how are you getting on with that game? What are you doing? What are you enjoying? Taking an interest in that space that's very important to them. And then, the bad actors, the criminals, the currency they trade in is blame and shame. If children are scared to talk to their parents, they're scared to talk to teachers, they're scared to talk to authority figures, then that blame and shame becomes all the more powerful. But when they can feel they can come up and say, look, I think something has happened, I'm a bit worried, I'm a bit concerned, then that's when the support measures can kick in. But I think, to pick up on a point that Sheema made, it's critical that children feel empowered and that they have the resources and the tools on the platforms. The responsibility should not sit with them alone. The platforms, the government, they need to be taking responsibility as well.
Yes, and I'll come to you in a moment, Sheema, on that. Your Excellency, governments need to take more responsibility. Also, of course, it falls to industry. As you were saying, it's baked into the cake for some industries now, from the airlines to the automotives. But a lot of them stand accused today of putting profits before people. Children are not at the heart of strategies of some of these big gaming companies. How do you, Minister, encourage industry to dovetail more with government so that you have the same ambition and it's not at the expense of profits or innovation, as Iain was saying?
Thank you. I believe that we must be, our response must be as dynamic, as multifaceted as the threats themselves. We cannot be reactive. We must be strategic and proactive. So I think one of the main topic we travel, we work on was strengthen of the legal and enforcement of legal framework. We must modernize our laws and enhance our cross-border cooperation with other big company and also other country. I think also one of the main thing, you have to fortify the ecosystem through public-private partnership. Governments cannot do this alone. We call our technology companies to embed safe by design into their products. This means that default privacy setting for minor robust age verification and mechanisms that respect privacy. Today with the AI technology, we must make up responsibilities for the big company to make and to make very sure tools with AI and also to carry out about children risks. So actually, government cannot work on this field alone. Responsibility for the big company is major for this topic.
Thank you very much. PPP is so important, international coalition, unavoidable. Sheema.
So, you know, I think what's important here is we look at the digital landscape as providing an opportunity for children, right? And it's here to stay, and it's great, and it's evolving, and let's look at all the positive things that come with it. Children's ability to learn and interact, and the creativity, and how they can be more inclusive, and all of that, right? But then we also have to be cognizant of the risks. And if we are cognizant of the risks, then, you know, like any other sector or any parts of our lives, when we know what the risks are, we know how to mitigate them. And we look at these risks or threats from, again, keeping children at the center. We look at it in terms of, just so that it's easy to remember, and 5 C's, if you like. So what's the content online, right? Who's putting up that content? What are children seeing? Is it harmful? Is it age appropriate? And who ensures that it is, right? The second is the contact, because just as parents, and Iain was talking to that a bit, you know, as parents in the real life and real world, you look at their friends and you know who they are. It's the same in the digital world. We do want to know who are they in contact with, because there are risks like grooming and exploitation and all of that. The conduct, right? How are they behaving? You know, just as our kids go to school and we kind of get feedback on how they behave.
Yeah.
It's the same. We are not getting the feedback, though, from the digital world. So it's important to see what is that behavior. Is there cyberbullying? What kinds of risky sharing? And again, as I think Iain said, it's about speaking to them about it, making them aware, making them empowered. And then the contract. And this is where we come to the other bodies, which is the commercial risks. What are their, are they transparent about data practices? And often we see no, they're very opaque. Data practices are very opaque. Is there any monetization involved? Because that then has another dimension to it. And finally, looking at those cross-cutting issues that then also involves this multi-sectorality, which is the broader impacts of it. What's the impact on the well-being of the child, the mental health, privacy?
Yeah.
And we have all these regulations for that. And I think this is really, really where we need to come together. We need to look at international coalitions because, again, it goes across borders, right? A child is sitting in their bedroom in a little, cozy home, but the impact can be felt from across, or the threat can be felt from across the borders. So extremely important to look at that and to look at what are those materials and what else puts them at risk, I think.
Thank you. Superb. Dr. Maimoonah, let me come to you. We've touched a bit upon ways to engage, not least with children directly, with big industry, but also with government. Going back to the Vision 2030 goals and ambitions of protecting children online, the community engagement, the civil and national programs that you're working on, how is this best approached? We don't want the language to be alienating, too technical, too distancing. We want an inclusive, open conversation, a safe place for parents and children. How do we make sure that the tone is right, and how do we make sure that the impact is what we want it to be? How is it measured?
Well, it's not insurmountable, it's possible. But we really need to be all, I think, aligned in understanding some dimensions. First of all, we want to, I agree with what you just mentioned, Sheema, is that we want to have a balance between empowering children, making sure they are really benefiting from all the different opportunities in the digital space. The digital space gives our kids depth and allows them to go deep into issues that they like. It is a space for innovation and creativity, and we don't want to restrict access. We want to make sure that access is there. However, at the same time, we want to also make sure that they are protected in those online spaces. So that balance, first of all, is something we all need to keep in mind. Secondly, we need to all be aware that technology is evolving so much faster than legislation. It takes a really long time to make any amendments to legislation, and that is a challenge because these platforms are operating globally and our legislations are national. And so there's a big gap there in terms of digital literacy, even for lawmakers themselves. And so that is also another issue that we need to keep in mind. I think we also all have to be resigned to the fact that there is a major shift in the lives of children from the physical space to the digital space, where they used to, this is where they are spending their time, this is where they're interacting, this is where they are learning and playing, and so that realization also needs to be taken into consideration in all the work that we do moving forward. If I take a moment to bring you back to just the statistics of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we have children who are 10 and over, 99.3% of them have connectivity online. That is a very, very high percentage. And the platforms they are using as of the last, or the most recent report, they are on Snapchat, YouTube, TikTok, WhatsApp, and Instagram in that order, and really high percentages. And so absolutely, we have to have international cooperation. This cannot be done without international cooperation for safe cyberspace for children. We are talking at the level of exchanging intelligence and technical information. We're talking about harmonizing the way in which criminal and civil legislative frameworks work. We're talking about facilitating judicial and law enforcement cooperation, and even exchanging, digital evidence, so that we could, no one has to reinvent the wheel, so that we could build on each other's, collective understanding. We also have to work on capacity building programs and sharing what has worked in different situations, so that others can learn. some countries lack specialized units, forensic experience, training opportunities. And so there is really potential for us to learn from one another through these international cooperations. I think also major online platforms, need to be part of these international coalitions, and we need to agree on what does victim support mean, what shape does it take, how can we provide training for it, resources, and also in the end, maybe back to my first point, which is we need both multi-sectoral but also multiple disciplinary approach, where everyone does what they do best in the roles specified for them by this unified framework. In our Saudi context, the National Framework for Child Online Safety and Safety in Digital Spaces, we met with 24 representatives from 14 entities and key ministries. That was followed by focus groups with the parents of the children themselves, followed by interviews and focus groups with the teachers, because again, children spend a great deal of their time in school, half of their day. And so what they are getting there and interaction with peers makes a difference. And then finally, we sat with the children themselves and heard from them what they do. What is their self-protection strategies like? Because they come up with really good ones, actually. And so, I might just end by saying that there still is so much more need for building frontline the capacities of frontline professionals in terms of knowledge, in terms of skills, and because they are the ones who are going to be the first responders to any urgent situation.
So interesting. Thank you very much. Dr. Iain, the final word to you. This is the new world for our children. More than 99% connected digitally, not least here in the Kingdom. It's the same increasingly across the world. Some schools are taking the interesting decision to reverse their reliance on technology for a multitude of reasons, but not least potential attacks and cyberbullying and the like. What's your outlook? What's your level of optimism, having done the recent report with GCF, not least with gaming, but in general about child safety for the year ahead?
I think we have to be optimistic. I don't think we have a choice about that. I think we're talking about the future of our children. So therefore, I think it's incumbent on us as those working in this sector to be focused on the positives. And I think there is a balance that can be struck between, having that space away from screens, which I think is important, and I think, needs to be part of the mix. But also, exactly as you said, that recognizing that children are online and that there are amazing opportunities. I think just looking at the news recently, the cutting off of the internet in Afghanistan and seeing the reaction to that, it's providing a lifeline, it's providing connections and innovation coming through. But I guess to leave on a point, if you remember nothing else from anything that I've said, is that we need to be investing in prevention. So if we're responding to the problem after it has happened, then that incurs cost, that incurs friction, that incurs trauma for children. And that trauma, looking at the gaming sector with extended reality, immersive games with virtual reality, the risks of that trauma is likely to increase. So we need to be building in, exactly as the Minister said, safety by design standards, such that this is an issue that is a normal, routine part of the product development process. Tech companies, they're inherently, they're designed to be optimistic. They're designed to be kind of utopian. We're going to create amazing new products. And I think that's great. But as they do that, to say, we need them to be safe as well.
Thank you. Safety built in, safety by design, ladies and gentlemen, to keep our children safe. A fantastic discussion. We have to leave it there, but thank you very much for your time, one and all. Ladies and gentlemen, my panel.